Welcome back, everyone, to the Red Raider Report as we continue our look at the Big 12 South Conference. We're going to look now at two teams that have a lot of expectations in 2009, and they rightfully should. The Oklahoma State Cowboys and the Texas Longhorns. For Oklahoma State, if you're a fan, you should be extremely excited about what this year holds because they are absolutely loaded offensively, and their defense is going to be much improved. In Oklahoma State, they're not just talking improvement, they're talking Big 12 South title and potentially Big 12 title with the BCS berth. The key for Oklahoma State, hard to pick one because they have absolutely a ton of kids offensively that can make a huge impact for them this year, but I'm going to start with their running back. Kendall Hunter, if you're a Texas Tech fan, you saw him firsthand last year in a game against Texas Tech where they didn't do so well, but this kid is a game breaker. 1,555 yards last year, one of the best backs in the country, should be on a lot of people's preseason All-American list. He's going to be the equalizing force. This is a team, despite all their offensive talents, that was almost 50% balanced last year between the run and the pass. The reason for that, they've got one of the top wide receivers in the country, Dez Bryant. Outstanding length, outstanding height in the end zone, a big-time downfield threat. This combination of Dez Bryant, Kendall Hunter, and one of the top quarterbacks in the Big 12, Zach Robinson, maybe gives Oklahoma State the best offensive battery in the country, and that's saying something. Up front, they got a lot of help from their offensive line. They've got a big-time NFL prospect, Russell Okung. He's going to anchor a deep group that has a lot of experience, and with that talent behind him that can move, they are going to have a lot of success this year based off of their depth right there. They're going to need a second wide receiver to step up, though. If there's one weakness, that's what it is. Bryant, extremely talented, but they're going to have a 2 and a 3 receiver to give another legitimate threat to take a little bit of pressure off Bryant, or teams are going to focus in on him and double team him at times, which could make it difficult to get the ball in his hands. Defensively, Oklahoma State, maybe their weakness the last couple years. A talented offense, but defensively not be able to close the job. That's going to change this year, and here's why. Bill Young comes back to Oklahoma State. Recently, his successes at the University of Kansas, you saw it firsthand. Under Mark Mangino, he made that defense into one of the best in the Big 12 Conference. Last year, he was at Miami. Didn't like things there. Back to Oklahoma State. I can promise you right now, this defense will be better with the talent they have. They're excited about the prospects of what Young brings to them. There's a new attitude, and they're going to put kids on the field. They're going to play under his system and give Oklahoma State a better chance to shut some team down and finish some games, such as Texas over the last couple of years when they've had to offensively knock Texas out of the park, but were not able to stop them whatsoever. Newcomer that's going to help that defense, Nigel Nicholas. He was a redshirt last year, couldn't play. They've expected a lot out of him. He had a great spring. Mike Gundy, the head coach, thinks this kid's going to be an instant success on the defensive line and give Bill Young someone to build around up front. Let's take a look at the schedule for the Oklahoma State Cowboys. That is a tough one, folks. This is a very stout schedule. Starts off with the Georgia Bulldogs. Yes, they lost Matthew Stafford, the #1 pick in the draft, and an outstanding running back, but that's an SEC football team. I promise you they will be tough. That game at Stillwater. Game number 2 doesn't get any easier. Houston. Yeah, I said Houston. They are a favorite in Conference USA. An extremely talented offense under second-year coach Kevin Sumlin. A team, if a couple things go right for them, could easily be a BCS Cinderella. They have to have some things go right against 2 Big 12 teams, Oklahoma State and Texas Tech. Then the Rice Owls, a 10-win team from last year. They will be down, though. Grambling, the only non-conference game that's a little bit lighter. Their road games in the Big 12. At A&M, at Baylor, at Iowa State. Those 3 should be no problem for Oklahoma State. The big one will come down to the last game of the year, a game that you're going to see later this week that I put a lot of emphasis on in my Big 12 predictions against the Oklahoma Sooners. The home games for the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Missouri, Texas, Texas Tech, and Colorado. Getting Texas and Texas Tech in Stillwater is going to be a huge plus for this football team. I'm telling you, they are extremely talented, and if some things go right for Oklahoma State, it is not beyond the realm of thinking that this team not only could win the Big 12 South, they could win the Big 12 championship and possibly be a surprise pick for a BCS national championship game. I know that might be saying a lot, but when you have that offensive talent, you have to give them that respect. 2009 season for the Texas Longhorns is starting to look eerily similar to circumstances of the past. Remember a few years ago, Texas goes to the Rose Bowl after losing to Oklahoma and Dallas. A young quarterback, Vince Young, leads the Longhorns to a win in that game and then makes a promise. They'll be back next year for the BCS National Championship game. This season, very similar. Colt McCoy and the Longhorns, they fall just short last year, lost the heartbreaker to Texas Tech in Lubbock. BCS standings put them just short of going back to the National Championship game. Colt McCoy came back to school. They have a lot of talent around him, and this year there is nothing short of one expectation: play for and win a national championship. And when we start with our keys for Texas, you're right there. Colt McCoy came back to school. He is the driving force of this Longhorns team. He came back for one simple reason: to win a national title. He's going to be their leader. They're going to remember their mistake from last year, and this is going to be a team that, until someone stops him, is going to be a favorite to reach the national championship game. Offensively, first you start with Jordan Shipley. You can hate him all you want if you're a Texas Tech fan, but this is one of the best possession receivers everybody wishes they had. Last year, he killed teams. He absolutely broke Oklahoma's hearts in Dallas with one heck of a kickoff return. They need a huge season from him. They're going to need a number 3 receiver to emerge, and they might have a good candidate to go behind Shipley. Former quarterback John Childs moved to this role during the offseason, has done a nice job there. He could easily step in and be a really good number 3 for the Texas Longhorns. For Texas, one of the things they're going to need to do is find a running back. I know that's saying something because they're usually loaded there. This year, there's not a clear-cut favorite. Cody Johnson's going to be given the first shot as he had a nice spring. They also, as always, have talent coming in because they recruit well. But they're going to have a feature back develop to bounce out that offense and give McCoy what he needs to run it efficiently. Defensively for Texas, Sergio Kindle, a hybrid defender. He roams between the linebacking spot and the defensive end spot. He's a pain for offensive coordinators to plan for. He's going to be the key for Texas, and he's going to be the leadership of the defense. The secondary, you remember a year ago we talked about, how young they were, if they would adapt. Well, they did just fine. And now all that youth has a year of experience under them, and they are going to be one of the more veteran crews in the Big 12 Conference. Earl Thomas, Blake Gideon leading that group. How about some help? Newcomer, and this is a big one to remember, Alex Okafor. Maybe the prize gem of the Texas recruiting class, 6'4", 240-pound defensive lineman, should have the chance to start immediately, and that's saying something when you get recruited by Texas, come in your freshman year, and have a chance to start immediately. An extremely talented kid that you're going to know a lot more about halfway through the season. The schedule for the Texas Longhorns, I'm going to classify it as very favorable. The third game, the most intriguing, Texas Tech. They moved that conference game up for a little bit better national TV exposure. That should be a fun one. Texas can say all they want that they're not worried about last year and they're focused on this year's gold. Yeah, right. They're going to remember very firmly what happened to them last year in Lubbock that cost them a chance at a national championship. That game will be a lot of energy. Non-conference from that point, UTEP. The home schedule, Big 12-wise. Colorado, obviously Oklahoma and Dallas is the big one. We talked about that during the OU preview. At Missouri, at Oklahoma State. That game is going to be, I think, arguably the toughest for Texas on their schedule because they get a neutral field against Oklahoma, but going to Stillwater against that talented offense could be one of the marquee games in the Big 12 Conference this year. They finish off. They got a non-conference game against Central Florida and then at Baylor, Kansas at home, and then finish with their traditional game against A&M. The schedule sets up very well for this team. 2 big hurdles, Oklahoma and Dallas, Oklahoma State in Stillwater. Get past those 2 and the Horns will play for a national title this season. That's going to conclude our look at the Oklahoma State Cowboys and the Texas Longhorns. Come right back. We're going to look at the final 2 teams in the Big 12 South, the Texas A&M Aggies and your own Texas Tech Red Raiders. This is the Red Raider Report.